Our gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the privilege of gathering here to consider those things essential to the fulfillment of Thy purpose on earth in and through us, that we may individually and collectively accomplish that to which we are called in Thy holy name. I thank Thee for the response of each one here and everywhere, by which the power of Thy service in the earth is being increased, that as we love and serve Thee truly, we may let all things work together to perfection in and through and for us to Thy glory. For Thine is the kingdom in us, Thine is the power in us, and Thine is the glory in us forever. Amen. In our meditation last Thursday evening, that was Thanksgiving evening, wasn't it? We came to the point where we're ready to begin consideration of some of the factors essential to the fulfillment suggested by our question. This point of healing, as you recall, had to do with the processes of restoration. The point that was posed by our question was why the positive expression of the divine had not been allowed to more effectively manifest in the world as a whole, and with particular reference to us here on Sunrise Ranch. Tonight, I would like to share with you particularized meditation on some practical applications of the principles involved. If you will remember our meditations of Thanksgiving Day, as well as those that have gone before, I feel that we can tonight properly make some practical applications in this particular field. So it will be a little different from our usual pattern of service. As you recall the principle, you recognize that before woman can be healed, she must begin to so function that she can help make it possible for man to be healed, and then her healing will follow. And that is true here on Sunrise Ranch. And the particular application here comes first in the sphere of the women's activities. We have been working for a long while to achieve a program where the vibratory pattern in the sphere of the women's activities should become what it ought to be. There has been, in the overall sense, some very definite progress. One of the factors involved in preparation for clearing the things we are considering tonight was established in relationship to Lillian and her handling of the focalization of the ladies' activities over a past considerable period of time, to some degree, or in one way or another. More recently, in an overall sense, in a definite program, and then her carrying of the focalization of the vibratory field for you while I was away. In order to work out as nearly as possible the correct vibratory pattern, which would make it possible to deal with these things. You'll recognize that preparation to this end was in progress long before we left for the Northwest, and every service we have shared since our return has had one definite aim: the general expression of that which is of the principles of reality, yes, but to establish a pattern that would permit us to do something here on Sunrise Ranch. So, all of these services, and particularly the last two, have been designed to prepare the way for that which we are considering this evening. Now we recognize that there has been progress in the kitchen, for instance. I might mention different ones as having played a part. I think one of the outstanding contributions to an improvement in the vibratory factors in the kitchen in a practical sense has come about through Edna and her sharing of the work there. But some have entered into this vibratory pattern more effectively than others. We first recognize that in the kitchen, the problems of every individual on the ranch comes to focus. Every difficulty in the sense of health, for instance, and becomes more or less a clearing center for the whole vibratory field. Practically every difficulty that is encountered on the place that has any individual characteristics begins to have some kind of influence in the kitchen. And in the kitchen we have two primary functions. One, preparing food, and two, eating it. You might say there's a third primary function, cleaning up after you've eaten. But let us consider the dietary factors first. There have been a good many misunderstandings and problems in this field. If we had money enough and facilities enough and help enough, we could perhaps undertake to provide a dietary regime more or less patterned after the individual tastes of everyone here. If we tripled our food expenditure and had more help, which seems to be a problem, and had larger facilities, we could be more considerate of individual tastes. There's been quite a tendency among some to be a bit on the arbitrary side with respect to dietary tastes, likes and dislikes. Now, for myself, the dietary pattern as we have been having it, is not what I would personally prefer. And yet, even though I have the remnants of a physical condition which force me to give a little consideration to dietary factors, generally speaking, I find something in the meal to eat, even if it's just milk and toast, without being too concerned about something else. And I think, generally speaking, that has been the idea or the desire to find something in the dietary pattern as it is. It would make it pleasingly possible to eat with pleasure and enjoyment. I think in the overall sense there has been, by and large, a real appreciation of the food. There's a great deal of care and consideration goes into its planning and preparation, and we've been spending really more from the standpoint of our income on food than we ought to, in one sense. I've allowed it to continue because I appreciate very much the fact that dietary limitations tend to complicate things. And I'm not bringing this up because I expect to increase dietary limitations, but because more and more the pattern tends to become complicated. It's in the field of the lady's work, and yet this includes all of us who eat on Sunrise Ranch. And it appears that there's been developing an increasing tendency to complication. For instance, with respect to those who feel that they cannot eat meat, it was with my approval, in fact suggestion, that we put a little more meat into the diet, because for some strange reason, the number of chickens we have are not producing very many eggs. I understand about 16 eggs a day. And even though our 100 more or less hens are only producing 16 eggs a day, there seem to be quite a few people who would like to have special consideration of having an egg. Well, now, if you can go up and talk to the chickens and persuade them to lay the eggs, you can have the eggs. But the point is, we don't have them. And I'm using this as an illustration. There are some babies on the place. They take first precedence in the matter. And we have the problem of what shall we have in our diet. Now, I'm quite sure that if we arrange to have the dietary pattern follow my tastes, some of you wouldn't be too happy about it. But I haven't undertaken to have the dietary pattern follow my tastes. We have undertaken not to follow any one individual's taste, but to come as near as we could with the funds available and the facilities and help we have in providing good, wholesome food for everyone. And yet these individual characteristic vibrations tend to emphasize themselves more or less. Now, there may be some cases where that's justified. I could very easily emphasize the point in relationship to myself. And I think it could be argued that that would be justified. Then we'd have, well, a different dietetic program. Very different. The point is, we have a limitation from the standpoint of the money that's available to spend for food. We've spent more than we should have from the standpoint of a balanced budget. We have limitation of facility. And sometimes some people aren't very thoughtful about, well, crowding in connection with those limited facilities. And we have limited help. From the standpoint of the work generally, I'd like to take Edna and Millie out of the kitchen entirely. I can't. Because who is there to do the work? Some have tended to object to kitchen work. It seems that there is quite a tendency to try to evade it or get out of it in some fashion, as if it were not important work. Sometimes there's a slapdash method in it, jam, rush, which is very bad. The kitchen work, all the kitchen work, needs to be done on a relaxed vibration, a general pattern. Now, we need to come to the realization that until the kitchen work, the ladies' work in connection with the food, is right, we can never accomplish what we are here for. From the standpoint of the ladies, there is not anything on Sunrise Ranch or on the face of the earth more important than right function in the kitchen. Without right function in the kitchen, our whole program will collapse. To whatever degree your function in relationship to the kitchen has helped promote the right pattern in it, you have been rendering a real service to God and to man. To whatever degree you have resisted correct function in the kitchen, to whatever degree you may have complicated it, you are hindering the accomplishment of that for which we are all here. I do not know how to put it in words to convey the more effectively the fact that the kitchen work is the most important work on the place, bar none, with the possible exception, if you want to make an exception, of my own personal work. But my personal work is impossible without the kitchen. If I have to stop and cook my own food, for instance, well then, it's another matter. I can't carry on without some food. None of us can. The kitchen work is more important than the work of the servers, giving attunements. There isn't anything on Sunrise Ranch or in relationship to our program that is more important than the kitchen work. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It stands equal, at least, with my own work. And it's one of the most effective ways by which you can serve. And we work against ourselves with unnecessary difficulty and limitation as long as the kitchen program is not what it ought to be. The responsibility of the kitchen work rests primarily with the ladies. I understand some of the men have been helping to some degree, and that is good. Whenever they can, I think they should. But we can do all of the other things out here, in field, in shop, or in office, including my own office, and have it all come to absolutely nothing if the kitchen program, the ladies' program in relationship to food, is not allowed to come absolutely clear. There is nothing more important than this, as far as you are concerned. It is important that servers give attunements. It's important that various things be done. But you ladies who have a part in the kitchen have the priceless privilege of doing the most important thing there is to be done in our field of activity. There has been evasion, there's been holding back, there's been all kinds of pushing and pulling and reaction in connection with the kitchen. And every attitude of that kind is maintaining the separation between heaven and earth. Every attitude of that kind is hindering the fulfillment of our program. Every lady here should count it an honor and a privilege, a sacred privilege and a high honor to be able to do something constructive in the kitchen. I do not care what we do in other fields, vibrationally or otherwise. Our whole program is on sinking sand, comparatively speaking. It's uncertain until we have the kitchen core what it should be. And to whatever degree you've helped it become a solid, stable, blessed thing, you have been serving God. And to whatever degree you have hindered it, you have been serving the devil. And we should face it and recognize it. The question that was posed, why this separation between heaven and earth? Why this failure? You know, I have wondered if it was finally going to come to the point where I personally would have to go into the kitchen myself in order to clear this pattern. And if it doesn't, I will. There is absolutely no excuse for it. And I shouldn't have to. But there is nothing in any kind of writing, in any kind of work, around the place, office work, or anything, that any of you can do, and I bar none, more important than the kitchen. Preparing food, serving it, and washing dishes. There's been a tendency to have a vibratory pattern in relationship to washing dishes that has been absolutely abominable. To carry that current of hell right into the heart of our program is a terrible thing. And that's what it is. If I must, I'll come up and set an example. I can cook. I have done a great deal of it. I can come up and I can serve at tables if I must. I can wash dishes if I must. But it isn't supposed to be my job. I do not hesitate to do it because it's beneath me, not at all, but because I think that's your job. I can do your job. Can you do mine? There's been apparently a feeling that somehow it was somehow kind of low to work in the kitchen. Something, to be objected to. As long as that idea of the devil and Satan is maintained in any mind here, there is something contrary to the divine pattern at work, right at the heart of our program. It's honorable, and there isn't anything that is higher or better for any of you. Why do I say that? Because until the kitchen pattern clears, we cannot, on Sunrise Ranch, have the real manifestation of the union of heaven and earth. I don't care what else we do, or how we do it. It cannot be achieved somewhere else first. The beginning of its manifestation from the standpoint of our whole program must be there. It cannot come anywhere else first. Individuals may, perhaps in a sense, touch it. But until that oneness of heaven and earth is established in the lady's field, in the kitchen, in relationship to the food we eat, it will not appear anywhere else. no matter what any of the rest of us may do. You have the opportunity of establishing it first, the core of it, the center of it, the current of the lifeline. And I would say, if any lady here is too good to work in the kitchen, she's too good to live on Sunrise Ranch. Definitely. And if any lady is going to work in the kitchen, it must be in the pattern of the application of the laws and principles for which we stand. It cannot be any other way. The laws and principles of reality, and a recognition that as that function becomes what it ought to be, we can begin to have the healing of the gulf between the intellectual idea and the functional application. I've touched on this subject before, but I never succeeded in making my words penetrate. They've been ignored. Various ones have acted as if I'd never said a word, as if what I said meant nothing, or as if I didn't know what I was talking about. I have never talked to you in any service or any meditation period about any subject more vital than this: that we let the kingdom of God come in our kitchen. For if we refuse to do so, it'll not come anywhere else in any real sense, in any adequate sense. The vibratory pattern of our whole ministry centers there. You may say, well, it centers in a higher sense or a larger sense in these services we hold here in the chapel. All right, we have it here in what we might call the intellectual sense and the spiritual sense and so on. But here it does not reach into the functional field. From here it has to be carried out and applied. It has to reach home in the doing of the task of whatever is at hand to do. We need to realize that whatever else may be true, until you ladies start to make a home for the king in the kitchen, we'll not have any real home for him anywhere else. How many times have you heard it said, especially in the what we might call the old-fashioned home, we live in the kitchen. The kitchen, the place where there's a sense of hominess, of life, the place where the home spirit reaches its apex. I ask you, is there any place in any home where the home spirit can reach a higher point than in the kitchen? No. In the dining room, you say, oh, no, no, no. No. In the kitchen. The center of the home is in the kitchen. Any home, including our King's home on earth. And our functional pattern here cannot clear until this is taken care of. Now we have a new year coming up. The Lord has provided various facilities by which an expansion program is possible. And right from the beginning in that new year, we have a heavy current of activity opening up. This next month is going to be a busy one for me. Getting ready for the new year and that which it is to bring forth. There are a number of things yet to be brought forth in this 12th month of the year 1953. A number of things. And we need to be ready for 1954. We have just a little over a month. This is the 28th day of November. The evening time. Just a little over a month until 1954 will be with us. And you know, I do not feel that I am in any sense arbitrary when I say that I expect this unit to be ready when the new year comes. And the measure of that readiness will appear in the kitchen. Anything else you may say or do or try to give evidence of serving or accomplishing something, it'll all be measured against the kitchen and what you do there, as far as you ladies are concerned, and to quite a degree as far as you men are concerned, because you have to eat there. That's where you find the centering of the home vibrational pattern. We either come there and add to that which provides the very core of our functional application of the law, or detract from it. Ordinarily, we eat at least 3 times a day. And that's all right. We have to take care of the physical food. But in connection with the physical food, there is the mental food, the emotional food. And if the attitude is not right in mind and heart with respect to the physical food, mind and heart starve and the body is poisoned. Because the vibration that is carried into the kitchen, whether in preparation of food, serving it, eating it, or washing dishes, will determine the vibrational pattern of our whole program. What I do here in these services comes to naught to whatever degree the kitchen pattern does not function harmoniously to the laws of God. I've seen tendencies to throw away what we had accomplished here because it wasn't carried over. You gather here and talk, listen to me talk to you. We share these meditations. And I'm here at least 4 times a week. And I thank God that your interest brings you here, that you find joy in it. But it is only to the degree that we carry it over into the field of application that it has any meaning. And the center of application is in the kitchen for men and women and children. Now I'm going to illustrate just a little bit about another field to show you how important this is. As the cycles have worked out, it is so developed that Fred and Elsie will carry the primary responsibility of taking care of my children while Kathy and I must be away in ministry. If they were not there to do that, I couldn't go and minister, nor could Kathy. In other words, in the ordinary pattern of things, we can't possibly conceive of a more important job on the place than that job to which they are assigned. It is one of high trust, and it makes possible my going into the field. If that provision were not there in an adequate sense, I just couldn't do it. But consider again, as they have shown their willingness and ability to take over that responsibility in my home, if the right food isn't provided for my children, their ministry on my behalf, so that I can minister out there, becomes nothing. In other words, it ties right back again to the kitchen. And I do not care how diligently Lillian and the others who work with her work in the sense of planning the meals within the scope of our budget, how carefully they buy or prepare or cook. Unless the right vibratory factors are established in the kitchen and maintained there, the food is poisoned. In other words, the wrong vibrational pattern in an individual can poison even the best food. And the right vibrational pattern can make wholesome the most simple food. Now, it might be that some of you would like to meditate on the possibility of accepting a different vibratory pattern, one that I would choose instead of one that you choose yourselves, because you know you have been. You've been choosing the dietary pattern yourselves. It's not something that I chose. It's not something that Lillian chose. You can't blame her. It's the dietary pattern that you have chosen for the application of the funds we have. Now, if that is to be changed, it's up to you. I can't arbitrarily change it. I have worked to establish changes in our kitchen since we first had a kitchen here in 1945. 8 years that haven't been achieved yet. Well, actually, the kitchen pattern has been the stand-out, hold-out resistance pattern. The place where I couldn't ever trust it to hold steady and be what it ought to be. It came nearer being that during convention period, for instance, this past year, or this year. And the pattern is held to some degree. Some of you have really applied yourselves to make it carried the spirit of reality into it. But you know, the pattern of patience, there is a point where patience ceases to be a virtue. And that point is getting very, very close. You have available to you, through Lillian, Lorraine is helping her now, Edna, Millie's done some good work in the kitchen, I could go on, Mummy, so on. And by the way, I've had it told to me that Betty is one of the best workers and non-complainers on the place. She does her job sweetly and efficiently, and so on. The point is, I recognize the things that you have brought and the things you have done. I'm not depreciating the service you have rendered. But I'm pointing out that we cannot begin to have the reality of the pattern here on Sunrise Ranch, of the manifestation of supply, the solidity of the core that will stand against the reactionary pressures that may appear, something that can be depended on and carry through until we have the right kitchen pattern. You know, I believe Marjorie's done some good work in baking bread. And we could go on. I could name various ones and the good things you've done. It even came back to me that Nadine had helped to set a better vibratory pattern in relationship to washing dishes. Yes, I know about the good things, but I have to face the facts as they are. It isn't enough. Why the gulf between? That's why that we were considering on Thanksgiving Day. It comes down to this. In the functional field, and what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? It is here that we either succeed or fail. I have set the course. The vibratory pattern has been open for great achievements in the year that is ahead of us. And there are many hungry and thirsty ones waiting for it. It will depend on what you do in the kitchen as to whether it is a success or not. My success or failure in the field depends on what you do in the kitchen, right here on Sunrise Ranch. And if you do not do your job correctly in the right spirit and attitude, then how can I ask anyone, anywhere to do anything in the right pattern and attitude? You make a mockery of it. You make a mockery of that which I am asking others to do until we have it in the kitchen, right here. Because until you have it in the kitchen, you are sending out the vibratory pattern, but we're not backing Uranda up. Don't pay any attention to what he says. It's all right up here in the intellectual field, but don't try to apply it. Don't let it have any meaning in your lives. Go on to hell. No. Our services are important. But the measure of their importance shows up in the kitchen, individually and collectively. I come here and hold a service for you. I go down to the kitchen and watch your function there, whether just to come in to eat or to prepare, wash dishes, or what have you. I watch you, whether you know it or not, and there I see the measure of meaning that you have found in what I have said. Not anywhere else. Because what you do somewhere else cannot rise above what you do in the kitchen. Never. What I do out here cannot rise above what you do in the kitchen. And if that's true of me, it's certainly true of you. The value, the meaning of what you do anywhere else cannot rise above what you do in the kitchen. To make that core of our home pattern meaningful. And the point where the heaven home begins to really mean something is where? In the kitchen. So whatever it may be, there it is. Now there are 1,001 individual problems that have tended to arise. I don't intend to try to solve those problems. I don't intend to give any specific instruction as to how they shall be solved, except that it shall be fair with respect to the whole. Some have been trying to shift part of the load over onto someone else. And it won't work. It will not work. Individually, you will have to do your part in the functional field. If the chapel is holy to you, so must the kitchen be. If our services in the chapel are meaningful to you, so must our service in the kitchen be. Whatever else we may do, it comes back to that. For unless someone serves in the kitchen, I can't serve, nor can anyone else anywhere else. And those of you who are serving in the kitchen have a share with everything that is done in the Lord's service on earth. Everything I do, everything anyone else does in the Lord's service, in the field or wherever you may turn. It is vital. And you set the level of your own meaning in the kitchen. As your function in the kitchen is correct, I can consider you in relationship to other things where you may be qualified if you are not needed in the kitchen. If we can work it out so that you can be released for that field. But those who do not function effectively in the kitchen, when they are needed there, have absolutely no consideration with respect to anything else that they may want to do. They do a job there, and they can give meaning to something else. They refuse to do a job there, and they can't give meaning to anything. They just become a non-entity, a problem. Your function in the kitchen determines as to whether you're a problem or not, as far as I'm concerned. And the vibratory factors that are established in relationship to our food, preparing it, serving it, or eating it, are of utmost importance. And anything that spoils the vibration in the kitchen is a sacrilege. As we begin to realize these things, you can begin to understand the meaning in these verses we were considering. The other evening. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. The mind cannot rise out of the dust. No matter how intellectual you think you are, how brilliant you may think you are, or anything else, you can't get your belly out of the dust except as you begin to let the kingdom of God come in the kitchen. For the aspirations of the mind or the spirit, the aspirations of the heart, mean utterly nothing unless they come to point in the functional field of the kitchen. Utterly nothing. There's been a tendency to see how little time one could put in the kitchen. And to me it has been a shame unto us here on Sunrise Ranch. Everything else that you do ought to hinge around what you can do properly in the kitchen. The kitchen shouldn't be the end result to shift and turn about other activities. Other activities are supposed to revolve around the kitchen. And if you try to make your activity revolve around something else, so that you ask the kitchen pattern to change and shift and turn about because you want something else to be centered, well, it'll never work. Never will. It never has, it never will. We come to the point where we realize that the kitchen is the place where heaven and earth can first become one. It's the center of all of our activities, including mine. Because my work comes to naught unless it has meaningful manifestation in the kitchen. That's why we've come along so slowly, because you ladies were not willing to let my work have more meaning, just to put it bluntly. You wanted to have it some other way. All right, we've had 8 years of it. Isn't that enough? The 9th year, the year of bringing forth, is before us. In the sense of our locality here. My point is, then, that the aspirations of the mind, the spirit, of the heart turn out to be a mockery, a myth, unless they're given form in the kitchen. The centering of whole. And wrong patterns there will maintain wrong patterns in the world. The women wonder why there are wars and conflicts and one thing or another. If half the ladies who function in the kitchen in the United States were to overnight change the pattern away from increasing hell to increasing heaven, the whole world would feel the effect almost overnight. Whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. Whether you want it that way or not, that's the way it is. And we'll either do it God's way or it won't be done. And that's God's way. And I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. It shall bruise thy head. What? What is it? And thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Well, now, most women have done their best to take the attitude that he shall not rule over me. And in some instances, I can understand the attitude. So it takes development both with the male and the female. But the point is, until this is accepted in the pattern of reality, the curse cannot be removed. Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. To eat of the ground. Now, that which comes to its highest fulfillment in the kitchen starts in the ground in man's work. Whether it is in garden or field or with stock, milk cows or beef cattle or what have you. That which starts in the ground in the field of man's work finally comes to the point of its highest consummation in the kitchen, where that which has been resurrected thus far becomes a part of the body of man. The ladies in the kitchen are working with the final part of the process. This process that begins with man's work in the field. And God said unto man, In sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Now, that doesn't mean that woman has to increase man's sorrow in the kitchen. Man has difficulties enough getting it out of the ground and getting it as far as the kitchen. But look, number the activities round about us. What man does depends on his ability to have food in the first place. Take the food away from the men for a day or two or three and see how much we'd be getting done. Go on a fast, well, we wouldn't be doing much work during that fast. But all of these tasks out here, if it be building a building, digging a ditch, putting in a pipeline, plowing the field, planting, whatever, from building, every phase of our activity has absolutely no meaning except as it relates to the kitchen. And every bit of it comes to point in the kitchen. The food that is grown, everything. If we make a door and hang it here in the chapel, if we stop having the right pattern of outworking in the kitchen, pretty soon there are no people on Sunrise Ranch. The place begins to fall to pieces, the door swings in the wind, and there is nothing. I do not care what we do. I do not care what lectures I may give, what services I may hold, what truths I may portray. It has no meaning except as it is backed up in the kitchen. You are the ones who determine how much my work shall mean in the world. In the kitchen. There isn't any higher calling. You have it in your hands. Success or failure. What shall it be? In the cycle of our endeavors, everything comes to point in the kitchen. And if we partake of the food in the right spirit and attitude, food that has been prepared in the right pattern, we begin to have meaning on earth. If you ladies can work together in the kitchen and do a job and have it what it ought to be, then I have this confidence. The pattern of the one woman on earth can come to fulfillment. The one woman. The bride. As we have considered the one woman in time past. All men and women formed into the body that becomes negative to God. But until we have the right vibrational pattern in the kitchen with you ladies, working together in the spirit of harmony and understanding, the functional application of the things of heaven on earth, I have no more opportunity of accomplishing that for which I came on the earth than I have expectation of hopping over the moon on one foot. The success of my ministry depends on you. The men, yes, what they do is important. But what they do comes finally to your hands for an acme of fulfillment. In the outer four, the ascending cycle. And what do we do with it? If we spoil it, make it to be of no effect, take the life force out of it, we have nothing. Actually, to say nothing of our King, I can have no real home on earth in the sense of fulfillment until we have it established here on Sunrise Ranch in the kitchen. Once we have it in the kitchen, the rest of our problems will just melt away. The increase in the level of kitchen function in the past few months has made all the difference in the world in what I've been able to do, in the prospects of things yet to come, in the manifestation of provision. If that improvement had not come in the kitchen, I couldn't have been going east to get a new airplane. I couldn't have been working out the factors that we have, opening up for the new year. Yes, the improvement in the kitchen has opened the cycle. I cannot go further in the field than you let me go. It's in your hands. Now, as I said before, there are a number of problems to be solved. Number of individual adjustments required. I'm not going to try to work it out. If it can't be worked out easily and naturally, after this consideration tonight, following upon our consideration of Thanksgiving Day and all that has gone before, I'm going to take the attitude that it cannot be worked out in relationship to you, and you will be invited to leave Sunrise Ranch, period. I'm through with the nonsense. You can take it or leave it. I'm through with the nonsense. I'll be patient to let you have a chance. But no more of it. If you don't let it clear, earnestly and sincerely and willingly, following this, I have no choice but to take the attitude that you don't intend to let it clear, that I can't hope for it to clear in through you, that I'll have to bid you farewell, one way or another. I expect the changes to be made individually and collectively. And I don't feel that I'm asking anything unreasonable or impossible. And if you would do your part toward establishing heaven on earth, there you have a real opportunity. It's up to you. Our gracious Lord and King, I thank Thee for these here gathered, and for all who are with us in spirit. That there may be a realization tonight of the glorious opportunity Thou hast granted unto us, that we may discharge our responsibilities under the privilege to Thy glory and to the blessing of the children of man. I thank Thee, Father, for the assurance that the vibration of the heaven home shall increase and become more real in the days to come. That it may never more be as it was in the days long ago. The foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. I thank thee, Father, for these who, in deep dedication and love response to thee, are giving themselves, their capacities and their ability to the manifestation of the heaven home, by which there may be a place prepared for the birth of the things that thou wouldst give into the earth. We see that until there is a heaven home, there is no way for the birth of the things that thou wouldst give into the earth. Behold, I make all things new. And we see that things of God coming down out of heaven into the earth. But they cannot come in any real manifestation except as there is a true heaven home. I thank thee, Father, that thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, here and everywhere, now and always.